I'm your host, Matt Forte, and we are here live one last time today at the Bill Studio in New York City. And man, oh man, I cannot wait to bring out our next guest. Susan Kelechi Watson is here. How about that, everybody, huh? Can't wait. Now, for those of you watching live at home, we are live so you can be a part of this show. All right, so submit a question. It's super easy. All you have to do is press the button right over yonder, conveniently labeled Submit a Question, or you can hit us up on Twitter at BuildSeriesNYC. If your question's really, really good and time permits, we just might ask it live on the show, all right? So we'll see what happens. My next guest stars as Beth Pearson in the incredible NBC phenomenon, This Is Us. She joins us here fresh off a SAG Award win for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama, and while she may not be an official member of the Big Three, she belongs to a select club that everybody in this room wishes they were a part of. She knows what happens to Jack. It's true. Before we bring her out here, we're going to take a quick look at a scene from this season of This Is Us. Let's go ahead and run that clip.
I'm just gonna comb you out a little bit before I wash it. Don't worry, I won't pull too hard, I promise. How long have you had these patches? You know, my sister Renee gets them too. These areas where the hair doesn't grow. What she has is called alopecia. Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
It's not that uncommon in black hair. Some people are just born with it. It's not their fault.
Oh. Didn't know that.
Is it always like this? You know, it's okay to talk about it. It's just the two of us here.
It gets worse when there's a lot going on.
What do you mean?
Like when bad stuff happens. When Mom gets in trouble. Or when I have to move houses.
That makes sense. Stress can make it flare up.
My mom has really pretty hair.
You know what? Over the years, I've gotten really good at braiding my sister's hair in a way that covers up her patches. After I wash you out, I think I can do the same thing with yours. Does that sound okay?
Man, this show, Susan Kelechi Watson, everybody, come on! Yes, please! Oh. Man, even just that clip gets you, right? Right? Thank you so much for being here. It is such a treat to have you back. Yeah, and congratulations, man. What a crazy couple of hours it's been for you.
Yeah, it's been bananas the last few
nuts,
hours, right? We're not in LA right now?
No.
This is New York? Okay.
Sadly, no. Very cold outside. Very cold.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. But before we get into the depths of all of that wonderful stuff that's been going on, just how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm doing all right. Last night was like just like the icing on top of a really good cake, man. You know, it was something. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You looked amazing, by the way.
Thanks.
The cobalt blue. Was that planned ahead of time, or
We
just
did
all
not.
had? No.
Can you imagine that the three of us showed up like literally in the same color? Nobody
amazing.
planned it, and nobody was side-eyeing anybody. Like, you know, I was wearing blue, girl. No, it was like Chrissy came up to me. I was sitting at the table, and eating the little food they give you. And Chrissy's like, Sue. I'm like, Chris. She's like, girl. I was like, oh my God. She said, Mandy has on blue too. I said, no. Mandy walks in. Sue, Chrissy. We're like, Mandy, Chrissy, Sue, Chrissy, Mandy. So then we just start taking selfies and all wire image, everybody gathered around and started taking pictures because we were like, I keep saying we were like the Supremes or something. It was like In Vogue or somebody. It was like,
at that point, you get to 3 people, and the assumption is that was intentional. There is clearly something going on that I'm unaware of.
No, and we've done it on different occasions. It just hasn't been like this beautiful cobalt blue, which is like really obvious. Yeah. But like we did it with black and gold before. We've done it with like reds. We'll just show up in like the same colors. It's so weird. But last night it was like we came in formation. It was really cool.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Man, you ever get tired of seeing Sterling win stuff?
Oh, I'm just over it.
That dude's on fire.
I know.
Oh.
Thank God. I mean, it's just amazing to see somebody who's worked so hard be recognized, you know, in all these different arenas. It's like, you know, his trophy shelf now is very diversified.
It's a nice shelf.
Yeah.
You guys go way back, too, like almost like around the corner.
Well, look,
like,
man, down the street, NYU. Any NYU people in the house?
NYU people?
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
Family. Yeah, Tisch School of the Arts, man. That's where we trained and, like, you know, learned from the best, from people like Ron Van Loo and Zelda Fitzhandler and Jim Calder and Deb Lapidus and just, you know, Deb Hecht. I can go on and on and on. Just amazing master teachers who taught us what we get to do now. Do you know what I mean? People keep talking about this chemistry that Sterling and I have that we probably wouldn't even have picked up on if people didn't say it. But we're just kind of playing the scenes the way we've learned to do at NYU. You know what I mean? So I keep saying we read out of the same handbook, and so there's this shorthand in how we act with one another. So it was like, it's really easy. You get in a room with him and you just get to doing it.
When did you know that he was Randall, that you guys were going to be doing this together? How?
He booked it before, like it was like Mandy, Milo, and Sterling were like the first 3 to be cast. And so I knew that he had it. They asked me to come out to LA to be in a room with him. 4 other women were going out for the role as well. That was sort of their final 4. And so I got in a room with Sterling at that time. And I just remember going in a room and having a good time and then feeling like, well, look, if I don't get it, I did the best I could. You know, it's one of those auditions where you just left it all in there. There's nothing else I could do. I turned over every stone, every rock. So I walked away feeling really good about that because I thought, even if I don't get it, at least I'm not beating myself like, because you didn't do this or you didn't do that. And so the chemistry was great, I even think, in that moment, because we felt free to play with each other. Whatever he was going to throw out, I was going to catch and kind of give back to him. Just because that's the way we learned how to, it's almost like people who know how to improv and stuff like that. You kind of learn a way to do it.
It's the ultimate gift to walk into an audition and have that kind of history with somebody.
Yeah.
You can't buy that.
Yeah, I apparently not. Well, I mean, we paid for it.
Evidently, you can put a price on that.
Okay. I just paid off them student loans. We did buy it.
Oh, man. Well, let me ask you, because you're right, people, and rightfully so, we talk a lot about the chemistry and about the relationship and how you guys, it really is like the ideal, like we aspire in our relationships to be like this, to communicate this way and all that. How much of that did you guys find moving through it in the beginning, and how much of that was on the page for you already?
You know, Dan Fogelman, the mastermind behind all of this, he said it's a reflection of his marriage. That's how it started. I'm sure it's morphed into like what we've brought to it. Yeah. But it was on the page to begin with, and then we found our own rhythm that I think they also incorporate into the writing. But in the beginning, Dan has said, this is not the couple that's going to be breaking up and doing all of this. Like, so there's no spoilers. You know what I mean? We'll be together. So it kind of gives you that freedom to go as high as we want and as low as we want, and to know that they're still it's not a fear to do that. They're still going to somehow find a way to put the pieces back together. So I love the fact that they communicate as well as they do, you know, and I love that people feel like that's something to aspire to, you know, that they can look at this couple and say, maybe take a few hints, you know. I do. Yeah, I do.
So you bring
Beth
stuff home?
does a lot of things better than I do. She does.
So you're definitely finding yourself picking up tips while you're working?
No, yeah. There was a moment, I think it was like, somebody somebody was feeling down about something, and I remember thinking to myself, wait, what would Beth do? You know? And I was like, she would just go up and just probably hug the person, and like, not that I'm not like that type of person, but I remember just having a moment of like, oh, she would do it this way, which is a little different from the way that I would do it. And then I did it like that. So it does help to kind of have those images on TV.
I love the idea of you even asking yourself, what would Beth do? It's like, what would Beth do?
I know. She'd probably do something.
So honestly, she's going to do whatever you tell her to do. She's
well,
sure you're Beth. Yeah.
Yeah, in some ways, right? But like we keep creating, you know, she's what she's on the page and then she's what she is through me. And that's something I keep creating and trying not to get too comfortable with just saying, oh, I'm Beth and Beth is Sue and whatever. But it's like, no, Beth is Beth and I'm me, you know? And so a lot of acting is really creating these characters. And even though they're very natural or seem very normal and everyday, there's still a creating in that. Yeah. You just have to kind of smooth out the edges so people can't tell, you know?
Are you, 2 seasons into the show now, are you and Sterling, as effortless as we all perceive this perfect relationship to be, are you guys still doing, having deep conversations, exercises, things to keep it so you're not resting on your laurels, so to speak? All right, everybody says we're perfect,
right.
But let's keep striving for perfect. Let's keep going. Are there things that you guys do to work on the relationship between Beth and Randall?
The most important thing is that we don't call it perfect. I think we don't see it as that. It continues to be a relationship of people who every day choose to be with each other. And that's sort of the way we go about it. So no matter what situation we go through, we know that we're still choosing one another, and some days it's harder than others. And so it is still a process. We still run lines together. We still go over scenes together sometimes. Sometimes we just let it happen on set. We'll discuss certain things. We'll text back and forth sometimes. And then sometimes we just let it happen naturally and just trust, like, let's just find something in the room. As long as I know my part, you know your part, let's find it. But we do continue to go deeper. We can't, that's not fair. Yeah. You can't start something like this and then go, I got it. You know what I mean?
We got this.
Yeah, we good. I'll see you out there. Yeah, right.
Everybody go home early.
Right. You got that one take? Got it. You know what I mean? No. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, that one clip alone that we got to watch with you and Deja, I don't know about you guys. I was close to tears just watching that. And I was saying earlier in the green room how I love this show. And we watch it with my wife, and we always end up crying and stuff. Right. I would imagine, do you guys, it's true, we have like snacks that we make too, because we know we're going to be sad. So we have like, this is us treats. I'm getting off on a tangent.
They have sad snacks.
Here's the deal. Do you, in the same way that like a sitcom has, like, they got to break for laughs occasionally because everybody can, do you guys ever find yourselves in the middle of a scene that's just too heavy and you got to hold for the emotion? Like, I'd imagine the Kleenex budget on this thing is astronomical. You guys just running through.
You know what? When there are heavy emotional scenes, we do give people their space and kind of try to keep the set in a space that you can just kind of maintain that, and keep going back to it so that you're not pulled out of it too much. But the shenanigans backstage is just like, we just have a good time. It's like, what video is that? Wait, who's talking what foolishness? Like, jokes or like, hopefully other cast members are back there too. Sometimes just passing by, sometimes just visiting.
Well, yeah, that's right, because you're not necessarily in every scene together.
No. So it's nice when, Milo comes by a lot, and I'm never going to be in a scene with Milo, but bless his heart. He comes by and like hangs out. Yeah, we do all that stuff to just. I don't know if it's a way to ease the tension, if we've even thought about it that way, but we just like the community of it. You know what I mean? Just sitting back, hanging out with folks.
It was so crazy. It didn't even dawn on me that we're never going to see a scene with you and Milo.
That's a damn shame.
I didn't even think I'd need these this early in the interview, but the thought that I'm never going to get to see you with Milo.
I think I might break.
Yeah, go ahead, man. He's so wonderful.
I know,
like, the two
he's so
of you
good.
together,
I love him.
Like, that should happen. Let me ask you something.
What?
While we dry our crocodile tears. Sorry, that was a cheap bit, but thank you for laughing and coming along with me.
Sponsored by Kleenex.
There's something about Beth's strength. It's unwavering. We've seen just about everybody at some point break or have a breakdown. But Beth, she'll get frustrated, and she'll need a minute. She hasn't completely broken just yet. She's always held on. She's been the rock. Where, for you, do you think that strength comes from? And is that hard to be that person?
Yeah.
We're going
I think there's a sense of patience that she has that's like really... it's that thing of like, all right, in this moment, I see that this person's needs need to be above my own. But recently, we've had a moment where she kind of, she has her moment. Yeah.
I was ready for that.
And it makes sense. Come on.
Totally
what can you do?
She does reach that point. Wait, hang on. Everybody's caught up. Any spoilers? Yeah, it's just not
Okay.
important. All right, cool. Fair enough. Fair enough. I just got to make sure. I'm just doing common courtesy, day and age. Where she says, you got to come back from space. Right? Is that what we're talking about? Where Randall, she's just had enough with Randall's
and it's going to start from there, and we'll see. Yeah, you get to see a moment, and it's interesting because we really enjoyed playing it, and I almost felt like Sterling and I weren't as close during that shooting of that episode. You know what I mean? It's like he's over there, I'm over here, but it was like we were given full permission to like wherever it goes, you know, and keep it 100, you know, and it can just go there. And so it was like, all righty then.
Fair enough.
You know,
so I don't have to be too concerned that it's an indication of a greater shift where it may be getting a little bit harder for Beth because of so much. There's been so much upheaval at the house, so many curveballs thrown her way, and she's handled them beautifully. But at a certain point, does it become like, how much more of this?
Yeah, because I think you have to, I mean, the show really is about being real, right? So there is that sense of, let's just be real, you know, nobody, God bless it if you can, but I know that there's always sort of this breaking point, and especially with the people that are closest to you. Like, if I don't break with my husband, like that's just not real, you know what I mean? So it makes total sense, and then we'll see what happens next. It hasn't been written, so I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, how far ahead do you know?
I know up until episode 16, and we go 18.
Okay, fair enough.
But I know kind of what happens, but not the details.
Is that like, it's almost like a Marvel thing? They don't let you know anything because they can't let you slip it out.
Boy, I'm telling you, you might as well call me Black Panther the way we can't say anything.
We got like a minute left before we go over to the audience, but I got a few more questions that I need to know. First of all, what's going on with Tess? She's acting out. She don't seem happy. I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I want to know what's up.
Be concerned about. Well, we've sprung a lot. The thing about it is that we've sprung all this on ourselves, but we forget that we sprung it on our kids too.
Right.
These poor children, they live in a happy life, and then you bring in a grandpa who dies on them, and then you bring in a little girl that they make best friends with, and you rip her out, and then you're like, Daddy don't go to work no more, and Mom is going to work. And these poor little children, good grief.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I would get in the car too. I'd be like, faster, Uncle Kevin, faster. We got to go.
That's amazing. Can we? I know you can't say much. Are we going to see more of that? Are we going to see that get resolved and get addressed? Because I do feel like she's almost, I don't want to say suffering in silence, but there is a sense of almost an obliviousness to how the kids are responding to all of this. And I don't think it's hit Randall and Beth yet.
Yes, we're going to explore that. Because like I said, the writers sit in a room and they really go through the psychology of every character, which is really interesting to watch. Because they track every episode. Would they do this if they did that? And if they've already done this, then how do they feel about that? I mean, that's literally how they talk. So each character's psychology is like woven into the storyline in this way where it's realistic, you know? So it's the same thing with Tess, you know, with Annie and what they're going to be feeling about all this. It can't help but to make an impression on them. And I think it's going to be really, really cool.
I'm excited to see how that plays out. Yeah, I've often wondered, because we get to see so much of young Randall and the Big Three and all that stuff, and I'm curious if you would ever love to see them show us young Beth or young Toby later down the road, that we get to see a little bit of how you became the person you are. Because here we have this strong, amazing character, strong, amazing woman, and we have little to no idea exactly how she arrived at who she is. We know all about how Randall became who he is.
Right.
Is that something you'd be into seeing?
I think it would be cool because you know, she's described as like this badass dreadlocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get little like
bullshit.
hints,
Yeah, and I'm like, that might be good to see. What else was she doing? You know, but it hasn't been, that I can tell you, hasn't been planned yet. As far back as we've gone, it's maybe about 9-10 years when, well, I guess it'd be about 9 years when she first got pregnant, and they were, you know, in their earlier mid-20s. And so it was, that's as far back as we've gone so far. And we'll see what happens next. But that's definitely like a fan storyline that, you know, if that happens, I think it's the fans brought that into fruition. So
told you I was watching every episode. I told you. Last question: are we ever going to see Deja again?
What?
Are we ever going to see Deja again?
What'd you say?
Deja. Are we going to see her again?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's sad because it's hard, but I think that's the balance of like fostering. You know what I mean? It's like that child can leave and they don't come back, and then it's like, what happens now? You know what I mean? So I mean, that's what's really cool about that storyline as well, is that the realities of what that is. Yeah.
Well, my time's up. Obviously, I'm made of questions, but I'm going to turn it over to the audience in a second. But thank you so much for this show, for the amazing work you've done, and for being here and hanging out. It's been wonderful. Let's go ahead and take some questions from the room. We got a microphone right here. Seems to be our first one.
Thank you so much for coming. You must have taken the red eye to get here.
I did.
This Is Us is must-see TV. You segued in talking about the foster care storyline, which I thought was so powerful, and we don't see that viewpoint that often in primetime TV. Did you have to do any additional research around that story as you were filming it?
Yeah, I wanted to know. Fortunately, I knew people who have had foster, who've been fostered. Actually, I grew up with people who've been fostered, so I watched that happen to certain kids when I was young, and I also know friends of mine whose parents were foster parents, so they had kids who came in and out of their home. So I kind of had like a real life experience with it. Sterling's younger brother and sister are adopted. You know what I mean? So like there was all that sort of real life experience we had, and then on top of the research that they were doing in the writer's room that really helped to influence that. And then it's really great to get the feedback from people who have gone through it or are going through it. I was telling a story that Sterling was somewhere, I believe, in Santa Monica, and I don't know if he was jogging or he was walking past, and there was this woman who came up to him, and it was a white woman with a black baby strapped to her, and she said, I usually don't come up to people, but I had to tell you, I have adopted this baby because of your show. And like, we'll get stories like this, which just kind of knock you off your feet a little bit. But it just speaks to, I think, what the writers are doing in the room in terms of how they don't tell a story without really knowing about what they're talking about first, which is really cool. Yeah.
When did you guys become aware of that, the gravity, the impact that this show was having, that people were not only responding to it this way, but making life decisions, like being inspired to go out and start a family because of this show?
Well, I will attribute a lot of it to social media. And I'm not the biggest social media, like it's like homework for me. I was telling my crew with me today, I was like, well, let me do my homework. I got to get my social media out because it takes a minute. You don't want to just throw everything, and be just thoughtless about it. But it takes a minute to this is what I want to share with you guys. And but I will say, people have been so good about sharing their stories through social media. Not only do I get it like on the street when you meet people, but social media has been a big way to hear about, Twitter especially, to hear about how people, how this story affects people's lives. So that's out of everything has been like the most profound thing that's come out of it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I got time for a few more. Next one's right here.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. I was just wondering with season 2 if the writers might have included you more of like what would Beth do or what would Beth say?
Oh, me personally?
Yeah.
We sit in the writer's room, sometimes we just sit and observe. And they're really good about observing as well, I think, when we don't even know it. But they'll pick up on little things that we've said, and they'll incorporate, not what I've said, but like if I say, for example, oh, I love this thing. And then you'll find like, oh, they'll find a way for Beth, to incorporate that into Beth. Or they will track what we're bringing to the character and then begin to incorporate that into how they write. When Beth first started in the show, they had those 2 scenes in the pilot, and then they didn't know what else they were gonna do with her. They weren't sure of who she was as a character at all. So that's where I think me as the actor begins to also help inform the character. Even though they'd written this really brilliant second episode, it was like finding what I was finding in her. Then they said, okay, now let's take that into the 3rd episode. Oh, we need to start to develop this, this Beth thing, because we're starting to understand who she is. So that's kind of that symbiosis that happens, yeah.
Very cool. We have time for one more question, and it is right here.
Well, yeah, I have a question when it comes to TV and also streaming services. In recent years, there's been a lot of celebration for diverse storytelling, and you think it's a positive change? Is it permanent, or do you think it will just phase out eventually?
No, it has to be permanent at this point. I'm over it now. Because last time, no, it's too much. It's too much. Last night I heard that Sterling was the first, black man to win the SAG award for like, I can't take it no more. Like, enough. You know what I mean? So I think now with people, because the tide is shifting in a way that people like, let's say Ava DuVernay, let's say Ryan Coogler, let's say, there's that are creating the content that's gonna shift the tide. And also, I feel like God didn't bring me this far to drop me off at the bus stop. I'm gonna stay. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of us that are gonna stay and do what we have to do so that this walk is not as hard for the ones coming up behind us, and that so we can finally stop saying, it's 2020, and this was the first black woman to win a Yeah, no, it was cute at first. Like, oh, that's great. Oh, we did. Now it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We did it now? So, no, it's enough.
Let me ask you something. You said you were sitting in the writer's room and observing sometimes. Do you have plans or aspirations behind the camera as well to write something, to produce something, direct something?
Absolutely. I have a writing partner, and we've actually written a pilot that is sort of one of those, it would be like a 10-episode type situation. And that's something that we've been developing and working on for a while. But I absolutely have every interest in having a voice in it and contributing in that way as well. Which is why I sit in on the writer's room, because I want to learn from them how to do it.
It's an amazing resource.
Yeah.
Well, you got to come back when that pilot comes out, all right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Regrettably, we're out of time. I got to let you go. But guys, obviously, make an appropriate amount of noise here. Susan Kelechi Watson. This is us, NBC, on Tuesdays, as if you didn't know. Just keep it going, please. This was